Hello. In this video, I'm going to go over the answers for the 11.4 to 11.7 quiz. The first question asked you about the steps for multiplying two rational expressions. It also happens to be the exact same steps when multiplying fractions, because rational expressions are just fractions with expressions instead of fractions with numbers. So, well, if you're multiplying like 2/3 times 5/7, you multiply straight across. So that'd be 10 21sts. So how do you do it? You multiply numerators times numerators, denominators times denominators, and then you look if you can simplify 10 over 21, don't have anything in common, so that one's simplified. So it's the last option. Tops times tops, bottoms times bottoms, and then simplify if you can. What about when dividing two rational expressions or fractions? What do you do first? So if I had something like 3/5, it's divide. Divide by I don't know, 2/9. How do you divide? You multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by 9/2. And then I multiply and I get 27/10. So what was the first step I did? I multiplied by the reciprocal. That's how we divide with fractions. You know, dividing by 1/2, if I divided into halves, I'd have twice as many pieces. So dividing by 1/2 is the exact same as multiplying by 2. It was the first way that we learned how to divide with fractions. It's the exact same steps here when dividing with rational expressions. Then can I use those first two questions to guide me when I'm multiplying and dividing? So first thing I should do is look if I can factor, so I know all the things that I'm multiplying. So what do I have? I have x plus 4 over x plus 2 times, factor this one, I can divide a 6 out. When I divide a 6 out, I have an x plus 2 left. Down below I have x plus 4. Now I have fraction times fraction, I multiply straight across. So I end up getting with the 6 out front. X plus 4, x plus 2, down below, x plus 2, x plus 4. Now that I have everything over one fraction, that's when I should start to see if I can simplify some things. X plus 2's will divide out, x plus 4's will divide out and make 1. I have 6 times 1, and that's just going to be 6. So this is just 6. If I have division, I'm going to change it to multiplying by the reciprocal. I'm going to factor the left-hand side first because the left-hand side stays the same anyway. If I factor this top part, what numbers multiply to be 12 and add it to be 7? Well, it's going to be 3 and 4. Down below, I can't. It's just 12x squared. Over here, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. That would be 4x over x plus 3. Then when I multiply straight across. I'm going to put this out front, so I have 4x. X plus 3, x plus 4, divide by 12, x squared over x plus 3. Now, once I have everything over one fraction, so this all came down here, that's when I'm going to start to simplify some things. 4 over 12, that's going to make 1 over 3. X over x squared, this x will be down below. Up top, this will divide out, make 1, so I have an x plus 4. Up top, so what do I really have? I have x plus 4. Divide by 3x, and that is this one. X plus 4 being divided by 3x. If I have if I have division, but I'm only dividing by a monomial, I actually think this was either a homework or a note packet one, exactly the same as it is right now. So this was a test to see if you were noticing that. If you're dividing by just one thing, we can divide it by, well, this one you can either do greatest common factor factoring, or you divide them separately. I'll show both. I'll do divide separately first. So 14x squared over 7x. If you only have one term down below, you can break it up and divide all of the top terms by that one term. We couldn't do that with these ones because we had multiple terms that we were dividing by. So 14 over 7 is 2. X squared over x is x, 7 over 7 is 1, x over x is 1, so I get 2x plus 1. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is I could divide the top out or factor it by doing greatest common factor factoring. What would divide out? A 7x, and what's left behind? A 2x plus 1 up top, down below 7x, so it really looks like this. Those would then cancel out, make 1, and I would be left with 2x plus 1. So two ways to do that one. If you have a monomial, you can just divide each of the terms separately, or you could do greatest common factor factoring at the top. This one was a question of if you can do it by long division. I let you know that there should be no remainder, and here we go. So x minus 1 dividing into x cubed plus 0x squareds plus 5x minus 6. Now here we go. What do I need to multiply x by to get to x cubed? I need an x squared. Then I multiply through x cubed minus 1x squared, and then I subtract. 0 minus negative 1 makes positive 1x squared. Bring this down. I get 5x. Now what do I need to multiply x by to get to x squared? I need an x. I multiply it. X squared, x times minus 1 is minus 1x, and then I subtract. X squared minus x squared, 0. That one always should be, because you chose it to cancel these out. 5 minus a negative 1 is 6x. Bring down this. What do I need to multiply x by to get to 6x? I need a 6. 6x minus 6, and my remainder is 0. How can I check? I should be able to multiply this by x minus 1 and get the original statement. Let's try it down here. If I do x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 6, I should get the original. Let's go. So distribute. I'm going to get x cubed. I'm going to distribute this thing 3 times. X cubed plus x squared plus 6x. Then I'm going to distribute this minus 1x squared minus 1x minus 6. Combine my like terms. I get x cubed plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 6, and that's x cubed plus 5x minus 6. So it checks out. X cubed plus 5x minus 6. It has to be option A. And that's what this little up arrow is. Google Forms doesn't have a math text format, so I have to use the up arrow to denote the exponent. Then 11.6, 11.7 had us adding and subtracting rational expressions. When adding or subtracting rational expressions or fractions, what do you do first? Well, for example, if I had something like what about 2/3 plus 1/4? I can't add those right off the bat because they're not like terms. This is counting thirds, this is counting fourths. I need to get a common denominator first. A common denominator of thirds and fourths would be 12. So I multiply this top and bottom by 4, this top and bottom by 3. That's going to be 8/12 plus 3, 14. Why did I say 14? This is 12ths. I guess I just saw the 4. There we go. 8/12 plus 3/12, that would be 11/12. But it said, what do you do first? You need to get a common denominator in order to add fractions. The tops are the number of the pieces, the bottoms are the size, and you need to get like size first. Is the following a valid simplification, yes or no? This was a test of whether you've been staying up with the homework, because this exact question was asked in the investigation the day before. If you follow along with the plans for each day, on the Thursday before we took our quiz, I had you doing a little investigation, and I said in there I would post the answers the next day, and I did. They were right here. So if you read the directions, the first thing I told you was to check your answers to the investigation, and I posted. If you click on that PDF, it looks like this right here. And so here is the one-page investigation, and this right here was the question you were being asked, and so that is a no. Definitely does not work like that. You cannot cancel across an addition of 2 fractions. So this is definitely not valid. If you want to see exactly why, go to that investigation. A quick example would be if I had something like 1/2 plus 2/3, and I just said, oh, these 2's are going to cancel out. That makes 1/3. There's no way that's even possible. This number is less than a half, and I had a half to start, and I'm adding 2/3 to it. So a half plus 2/3 is not going to be 1/3. So that's why that's not valid. You need to have like terms across each other on the same fraction. These are like terms across from each other on different fractions. That's not going to be valid. So definitely a no. And here we go. Then I asked you to add and subtract some statements. So this one's adding. I have a common denominator, so I can just add the top pieces. 4x plus 12. My common denominator is x plus 3. Now I look to see if I can simplify. The top can be factored. If I divide a 4 out, I'll have x plus 3, and then I notice that these will cancel out. That's just the number 4. Second one and the last one for the quiz, adding, but I don't have a common denominator. I would factor the bottom first, or everything really, to see what can be simplified, if anything can be simplified beforehand, or how I'm going to get a common denominator. The top of the left can't be factored. There's nothing to divide out. Plus x plus 1. Down below here, I need a factor. Multiply to be this, add to be that. That's going to be an x minus 3 and an x plus 1 over x minus 3. So I need to add these fractions, but they don't have the same bottoms. This one on the right-hand side is missing something. It's missing another x plus 1. So I need an extra x plus 1 here. If I multiply it by on the bottom, I need to do it on the top. That's the exact same thing you do with fractions, like right here. If I'm trying to get fourths to be twelfths, I need to multiply the top and bottom by 3. Here, I need the bottom to be x minus 3 times x plus 1, so I multiply the bottom by x plus 1 and the top by x plus 1. Now over here, this will just be 3x plus 2. It's just hanging out, waiting for the other side to match it. Up here, I need to multiply it out, double distribution, x times x to be an x squared. I'd end up getting 2x's plus 1 once I multiply it all out. Now that they have a common denominator, I can just add all the top pieces. This is essentially 0x squareds plus 3x plus 2. If I add 0x squareds plus 1x squared, I get an x squared. 3x's plus 2x's is 5x's. 2 plus 1 is 3. The bottom is x minus 3 times x plus 1. The top can't be factored anymore, so it's x squared plus 5x plus 3. If I go looking, none of those have that option. This looks pretty similar. It's because the bottom got multiplied out. If I multiply the bottom out, it'll be x squared minus 2x minus 3. And so that is why it is option A. And that is it. I hope this helped clear up any ones that you missed, and thank you very much.